Hey guys, it's Ben the Coin Geek at Old Pueblo Coin, and before we get to our video, I want to remind you that if you enjoy our content here, please consider subscribing, but also make sure you like and share the videos and also comment. Love the comments because I am a glutton for punishment and you guys are very honest and I really appreciate that. Also, we do have memberships if you want to go ahead and support the channel in other ways. Some of those memberships include extra content and you can look for that. A link for that information down in the video notes. Without further ado, let's get to our topic today, which has to do with coins as an investment. And so one of the things that I'm very fond of saying is that I don't believe in coins as an investment. And I need to really trim that down into something that I actually believe, because it's not that I don't believe that coins aren't a good investment or can't be a good investment. I just believe that when people look at coins as an investment, they usually have a mail order company calling them, telling them, hey buddy, we're going to get you, you're going to make money, this coin's going to be rare, it's going to be great, la 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 la. And by the way, you know, we don't like our own moms. So that's what happens when the mail order companies call you. If you don't know about that, you can watch the video that we did on that. So that's why I don't like saying coins are an investment. But what I will say is that obviously there are areas that you can collect and have been able to collect that have appreciated over time. And some of it's just natural. If you wait 50 years, as long as the market still exists, you're likely to see appreciation in lots of different levels and areas of the marketplace. The question that I get a lot of times is, what can I buy that's going to be more valuable in the future? And instead of specifically answering that with some type of crystal ball and saying, you know what, you should absolutely buy this one product, you're going to be amazed, this penny stock is going to blow your mind. We're not doing any of that today, but I'm going to talk a little bit about coin theory and investment theory. And one of the things that if you want to look at something that if you want to learn, right, if you want to learn about something, any topic, you want to go to people who know what they're doing and know what they're talking about. So what are you doing here, right? So no, but look at who is the one guy who is really well known for his investment savvy, you know, and you may or may not know the name. For those of you who are familiar with billionaires in our land, a gentleman by the name of Warren Buffett, who is really an interesting guy to listen to talk because he's very plain, simple, he's kind of old school, and his entire investment strategy is to go the opposite way of the masses and the hordes and the herds. And so I think this gives us a little bit of a clue as to something that you may want to consider looking into when you're trying to find an area that you want to collect. Now, before we get into that, I want to say, first of all, I still believe heavily in the fact that if you are passionate about what you collect, you're going to make better decisions, better purchases, and better long-term investments. So at any time, I don't recommend you just buy something as, well, this has got to be worth more later. I think generally you still need to be able to have some passion around it and look into it. So what I'm going to talk to you about is an economic principle. It's also used in algorithms, and it's something called a long tail, which is basically, you know, if you look financially if you look at any search, Google search, this is what this is used for oftentimes, you'll see there's a ton of searches that add up to one main thing here, but then there's this long tail at the end, and actually this isn't, of course, to scale, but if you look at a long tail search, you'll see that the tall stack is going to be like a quarter of what's there, but the other 75% is like small things that add up to a lot of things, right? So what I'm doing here with this little design doohickey that I made is I want to show you the coin market, not to scale, thank you very much, but in general, how does this work? Well, you see the Morgan dollars are where everyone's at, right? I mean, in US coins, we're going to talk mostly US coins here, but the Morgan dollars is where you're going to see a lot of people collecting. All these people here. And then you got maybe peace dollars and Lincoln cents, and then you start going down. Well, maybe there's a lot fewer collectors down here for like 2-cent pieces, but then you get down to like Civil War tokens, and then you get down to maybe like Mexican medals, you know, medals from the Mexico City Mint, you know, and you get to a lot of things that are very esoteric or not as collectible, not as collected. They're just as collectible. So what happens when people decide to switch categories, right? So there's a couple things that can happen. Obviously, you can get new money into the marketplace. You can have people that come in and they add to these, right? But also there's the concept of, you know, people actually move money, like they sell something and they buy into something else. But either way, let's ignore the selling something and moving markets, right? Let's just concentrate on what it looks like when somebody moves into a marketplace, right? So if you got a really small marketplace, then all of a sudden if somebody moves into it, now they can really raise the price on something. And if you get a couple more people into it, you can really start to see that demand go up and up, right? So I'm going to give you the caveat right away, which is the opposite is also true. Really small markets can really easily fall apart because all of a sudden if you have one or two major players remove themselves, all of a sudden the market, they can support the markets almost by themselves, right? And we've seen this in, I'm very fond of Arizona National Banknotes. Arizona National Banknotes, you might see at the major auction houses between Stax and Heritage and everybody else, you may see, 10 or 15 a year kind of travel through them and stuff, not like that. But all of a sudden, if you see 50 or 60 come in the market in one auction, it can really devalue part of the marketplace because it's such a dramatic shift in asset, but also in the number of buyers. So you got to be careful when you're playing in these long tail fields. But really, there's still a lot of money to be made in what you might call the niche markets, right? Mexico City metals, right? So part of when I started to think about this, I started to think about stuff that has appreciated or depreciated over time. And I was thinking about, for example, good for tokens, right? So in good for tokens, you've got like the old private saloon tokens that were minted. It was like good for a drink or good for 12.5 cents and stuff of that nature. And so those I've seen things where you had tokens that sold for $400. Now they're only worth $100. So you can see what happens when demand wanes in a small market area, right? But the opposite is also true, where I see certain areas that used to be really not that collected. In the Mexico City mints, I put on here on purpose, the Mexico City metals, because there's a lot of those out there that I used to see that they used to trade really close to melt, and this is with silver at, $6, $7, $8, $9, $10. And so they'd be, $10 items, $12 items. And all of a sudden I look up today and they're $50, $60, $70, $80. And looking at that got me just thinking about this entire concept when you guys asked the question, well, what can I invest in? So of course, once again, not to say everyone go buy Mexico City metals, but with the Warren Buffett principle of doing what other people are not doing, looking into different niche markets and finding something that you're passionate about. And if you don't know what type of niche markets are out there, there's a simple way to do that. You buy yourself a red book, and for the US coins, this is for US coins, but there's a lot of stuff out there that's not just US. But if you want to start looking somewhere and you only like US, pick up a red book and thumb through it. And you'll find, especially near the back, that there's lots of very small niche markets. But even outside of like private metal, Pioneer Gold or Civil War tokens or Hawaiian, plantation tokens, and some of those are more expensive, so you might not want to necessarily go into that. But there's also little subsets, right? So maybe you do look into trying to put together a nice 2-cent, 3-cent piece collection if that's what you're into. I still think that there's a ton of potential in a lot of world coin markets, and trying to understand the world coin markets can be difficult because obviously most of us as US citizens really just do US stuff. I know there's some of you out there who really like a lot of different world stuff. And what's cool about the world stuff to me is it still is like the wild, wild west. And what I mean by that, it's like what coin collecting I think used to be like 75 or 100 years ago. And that's to say that there are really a lot of coins that are actually very, very, very scarce to get in high grade. And for the guy who specializes in Bolivia or in Chile or, name the country, they're able to find things and know that it's a rare piece by grade, which you're not always able to do, right? So a lot of times people complain to me about crack out videos because I'm messing with the census, 90% of what I'm doing there is stuff that's like, there's 6 million, 10, 12 million Morgan dollars graded. I'm not messing with the census on that stuff, right? But when you look at some of this other stuff that I'm talking about, you're looking at stuff where the census oftentimes is a couple dozen pieces. So like Arizona National Bank notes, for example, you know, there's only so many of each known, and you know, for the person who specializes, you can know exactly what it is, exactly what a good value is, and exactly what the grades are of those other notes because you follow them, right? And so this gets me back to the passion point, which is if you have the passion combined with the scarcity, you get that passion, you get that knowledge. When you get the knowledge, then you make the decisions that are good long-term decisions. You know, you're still at the behest of the marketplace. If no one else gets into collecting what you collect and you're still the only guy collecting it, then it's not going to become valuable. But over time, if you do have other people that step into that same marketplace as you do, and you end up having stuff that's a lot more scarce or rare, you will profit from that. And I really like the smaller niche markets for that type of appreciation. Now I'm going to go to the big part of the chart here and say everyone asks about Morgan dollars and this, that, and the other. The difficulty with a lot of that stuff is that, you know, the upside of that is that's where there's a lot of people in that market, and likely there'll be a lot of the people in that market for a long time. It's hard for me to look at that market and say that market's going to suddenly change and go down and deteriorate over time. You know, that's something that, you know, so people consider this to be the safe bet, just buy better date, high grade Morgans and stuff like that. But a lot of times you're not competing on true rarity, and you can lose a little bit of the passion flow for that, right? You don't always see, it can become commercialized and turned into a commodity much easier than, say, ancient coins or world coins or Civil War tokens, or you name the niche, right? Or the niche, whichever you like to say. So anyways, guys, I hope there's a good takeaway in there for you about the concept of investing in coins, metals, tokens, paper money, you name it, prison money. I mean, there's all kinds of niches out there that you can specialize in and enjoy and really have fun with and have some appreciation from the marketplace, because if you are a first adopter to an area and you are able to buy the rare coins, the rare grades, the nicest content, the nicest pieces, then at that point you can really see the reward in the long run. Anyways, please consider leaving a comment, subscribe, like, all that YouTube stuff. I'm Ben the Coin Geek, and you can subscribe by clicking on the button in the corner and watch more videos on the right side of the screen. Thanks.